Imagine a world without order, a land where violence is the only law, where fear is the currency of survival. This was the England of Thomas Hobbes, a philosopher who stared into the abyss of human nature and saw not nobility, but a terrifying truth that without power, without control, mankind is condemned to a life that is a solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. His name echoes through history not as a dreamer of utopias, but as the architect of a chilling vision, one that would reshape politics, philosophy, and the very foundation of modern society. But who was Thomas Hobbes, and why did he believe that humanity's only salvation lay in surrendering to an all-powerful sovereign? Born in 1588, Hobbes entered the world under the shadow of the Spanish Armada, a time of invasion, uncertainty, and dread. His own mother, gripped by panic, went into labor prematurely as England braced for war. It was as if fear itself marked his birth, a theme that would haunt his philosophy forever. A brilliant mind, Hobbes studied at Oxford, but he was no sheltered scholar. He lived through the English Civil War, a bloody conflict that tore apart the very fabric of society. King against parliament, neighbor against neighbor. The streets ran red, and the old order crumbled. Hobbes saw firsthand what happens when authority collapses, and it terrified him. Hobbes asked a simple, terrifying question: what are we without government, without laws? His answer was the state of nature, a hypothetical world where no ruler, no society, no morality exists, only raw, unfiltered human instinct. In this world, every man is enemy to every man. Trust is suicide. Strength is the only law. There is no art, no science, no progress, only the endless struggle to survive. This, Hobbes argued, is our natural state. Not cooperation, not peace, but war. But if this is human nature, how do we escape it? How do we prevent society from collapsing into bloodshed? Hobbes's answer was as radical as it was controversial. Thomas Hobbes had peered into the abyss of human nature, and what he saw left no room for optimism. But he was not content to merely describe the horror. He sought an escape, a way out of the endless war that he believed defined our existence. And so, he crafted a solution so bold, so controversial, that it would shake the foundations of political thought forever. Hobbes's answer was not a plea for kindness, nor a hope for human virtue. It was a cold, calculated bargain, the social contract. Imagine, for a moment, that you are one of those terrified souls in Hobbes's state of nature. Every day is a struggle. Every night, you sleep with a weapon in hand. You know that sooner or later, someone stronger, someone hungrier will come for you. And then, a realization. What if there was another way? Hobbes argued that rational people, gripped by fear, would eventually agree to surrender their freedom, not out of trust, but out of necessity. They would hand absolute power to a single ruler, a Leviathan, whose sole purpose was to keep the peace at any cost. This was no democracy, no parliament, no rights. The sovereign's word was law, and disobedience meant chaos, a return to the nightmare they had escaped. For Hobbes, tyranny was not the enemy. The real enemy was anarchy, but such power came at a terrible cost. Hobbes knew this. In his world, the sovereign could not be challenged, not even if they were cruel. To rebel was to risk plunging society back into the abyss. Was Hobbes justifying tyranny, or was he simply being ruthlessly honest about the price of survival? His critics would call him a monster. His defenders would say he was the only one brave enough to tell the truth. Yet, one question remains. If Hobbes was right, if humanity's natural state is war, then why do we sometimes resist oppression? Why do we fight for freedom, even when order seems safer? Thomas Hobbes had given humanity a grim ultimatum: submit or perish in chaos. But even as his words spread, something unexpected happened. People rebelled. If humans were truly as selfish, as violent as Hobbes claimed, then why did they risk everything to overthrow tyrants? Why did they fight, not just for survival, but for freedom? Hobbes' Leviathan did not go unchallenged. A new generation of thinkers emerged, armed with a dangerous idea. What if humans weren't born monsters? What if, deep down, we longed for more than just survival? Locke argued that humans were born with natural rights: life, liberty, property. Rousseau went further, claiming that society itself corrupted us, that in our purest state, we were noble, even kind. But Hobbes would have scoffed at such idealism. To him, these philosophers were blind. They had not seen what he had seen: the blood in the streets, the betrayals in the dark. The truth, he believed, was written in history's darkest pages. Centuries later, science would weigh in. Psychology Psychologists, anthropologists, even biologists would study human nature, and the debate still rages. Are we Hobbes's creatures, forever on the edge of violence? Or is there something deeper in us, something that rebels against chains, even when obedience seems safer? Perhaps the answer lies not in philosophy, but in you. Look around, look within. When the stakes are high, when fear takes hold, which voice wins? The one that demands order at any cost? Or the one that whispers freedom? Thomas Hobbes died in 1679, but his Leviathan never left us. His ideas shaped empires. They justified absolute power. They warned us of ourselves. And now, centuries later, we must ask, was Hobbes right, or was his vision of humanity a self-fulfilling prophecy? Look at our world. Governments track our every move. Algorithms predict our desires. Nations hoard weapons, not because war is inevitable, but because we act as if it is. Hobbes would nod in grim satisfaction. We have built his Leviathan, not in the form of a king, but in systems, in data, in the unspoken rules that keep us just civilized enough to avoid destruction. But here is what Hobbes never imagined. We now have the power to create chaos on a scale that would terrify even him. Nuclear codes, cyber wars, a single tweet that can ignite riots. The sovereign no longer controls the violence, because the violence is in all of us. So where does that leave us? Trapped forever in Hobbes's nightmare? Or is there another path? Perhaps the true answer lies not in choosing between chaos and control, but in understanding that humanity is both. We are the knife in the dark and the hand that heals. We are Hobbes's savage and Locke's dreamer. The Leviathan was never our only option. It was just the easiest one. The real challenge, the one history still whispers to us, is whether we can govern ourselves without becoming monsters in the process. Hobbes gave us a warning, not a destiny. What will we do with it? If this journey through Hobbes's mind made you question the nature of power, of society, even of yourself, then you belong here. Subscribe to dive deeper into history's most dangerous ideas, because the past is never really past.